What is going on, everybody? What is going on, the Catch fam? My name is Jon Dawson, and in today's video, I am bringing you quite possibly the worst quality video I have done in a very long time. While I'm on vacation, we are hopping into another 2022 fantasy football mock draft. Today, we got a 12-team full PPR mock from the 5th overall selection through the ESPN platform. If you guys do enjoy today's content, be sure to hit that like button on the way in. Hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. And let me know if you guys have any mock draft requests and or questions, comments, concerns pertaining to the 2022 fantasy football season down below. And without further ado, let's hop into another 2022 fantasy football mock draft. All right, so sitting at 1.5 overall, I'm just going for the best available running back or receiver. More than likely at the 5th overall selection, I'm probably heading towards a running back. Overall, I think there's going to be better value, but it's just kind of an odd spot, like 4, 5, or 6, where you might have one of those top tier receivers like a Justin Jefferson fall up. It's going to be really difficult to pass up on, but generally speaking, in a 12-team mock, I'm going for a running back in the first round as a whole. Really, as we start to navigate this draft, all I'm doing to start the draft is selecting the best available running back, and then I'm going to navigate to the best available receiver in the following round and just rotate between running back and receiver throughout the whole draft and let a good value tight end fall to us, let a good value quarterback fall to us at the right point in the draft. Okay, so looking here, like I said, I mean, Jamar Chase, very, very difficult for me to pass up on, right? But then you got Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, both sitting there. Let's stick to our guns. Let's go Derrick Henry here. Let's stick with a running back to start things off, and then let's see what receivers we can land in the second round. I just tend to believe that you can find better value at the receiver position throughout the draft. I mean, especially even in the second, third, and fourth round, right? As opposed to the running back position, which is going to dry up very, very quickly. So it's a tough spot to draft from, to be honest, because like I said, you're going to have a lot of different talent sitting there available. And some of those receivers are just going to be really hard to pass up. If you were to go receiver there in the first, it doesn't bother me. I just think you lose some value at running back. Don't get me wrong, like, you know, a guy like JJ or Jamar Chase, you're not going to find value like that at receiver throughout the draft, but you're going to be able to find very, very valuable receivers throughout the entire draft, where running back, you're going to see things drop a little bit quicker. All right, so JJ is gone at 1.6, Jamar Chase gone at 1.7, Najee Harris off the board at 1.8, Dalvin Cook's gone, and Alvin Kamara is gone at 1.10. Two more selections here until we finish up the first round and move into the second. Devonta Adams is your 11th overall selection. So looking at the 20th overall selection, looking at receivers who could be available there, there's a possibility that a CeeDee Lamb or Tyreek Hill falls out, more than likely not. So we're looking at a guy like Keenan Allen, T. Higgins, Mike Evans, maybe DJ Moore, Michael Pittman as our wide receiver one. For me, I'm looking for that nice consistency. I like Keenan Allen out of that bunch probably the most, but I also really like Mike Evans. It's not that I dislike T. Higgins necessarily, but I really like, especially in 12-team mocks, I really like targeting Tyler Boyd as a late round roster piece, as a late round receiver, and kind of a handcuff to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, so to speak. So I like saving a piece of that Bengals offense for a little bit later in the draft. So for me, I'm probably going with Keenan Allen here. Don't get me wrong, you can probably land Mike Williams as a nice value piece, but the way this draft is going, it doesn't really look like Mike Williams is going to be a possibility for us. So for me, I'm probably going for Keenan Allen or Mike Evans if Debo, Diggs, CD, or Tyreek Hill do not fall out, and I doubt that more than one of those guys falls out, right? Okay, so Joe Mixon gone at 1.12. Into the second round, we've got DeAndre Swift, Javonte Williams, Stephon Diggs, our first tight end off the board, and Travis Kelce. And we'll just kind of sit back here. I mean, we might be in a fortunate position here and see one of those top tier receivers fall out. Maybe not. Debo's gone. CeeDee Lamb's gone. It's possible here that Tyreek Hill is gone. Leonard Fournette is taken at 19th overall. So Tyreek Hill sitting here. I like the upside selection of a Tyreek Hill to start this receiving room, but I don't mind going with a guy like Keenan Allen or Mike Evans here. I think there's an argument for all those guys, and there's still an argument for T. Higgins here. Like I said, I just would rather take Tyler Boyd down the stretch. So let's go with Tyreek Hill here. And listen, I really like Jalen Waddle, but the way this draft is working out in terms of our strategy where we're going running back in the 3rd round, I don't think that Jalen Waddle is going to be a selection for us either. So we'll take Tyreek Hill as our first receiver for this roster. Mark Andrews is selected at 21. James Conner selected at 22. 2 more selections here in the 2nd round. All right, looking ahead to the 29th overall selection, I would be really happy if Saquon falls out to us. Not entirely sure that Saquon off of the board here in the 2nd round. If you're drafting through ESPN, if you're doing a lot of these mocks through ESPN, just be aware that Saquon is still ranked relatively low. I mean, saw him ranked as 28th overall. I mean, at this point, there are drafts out there where he's going at the end of the 1st. There are enough fantasy managers who have that conviction in taking Saquon as an RB1. So I don't know, if you're drafting through ESPN and you're landing Saquon as an RB2, an RB3, a 3rd player overall, whatever it may be, I wouldn't get too comfortable with that when it comes time for you to actually draft. Okay, Aaron Jones is gone, Mike Evans is gone. So for me, looking at the RB2, I kind of like, and there goes Nick Chubb. I was going to say I kind of like Nick Chubb, but he is gone. I don't mind ETN here, but we might see him fall out a little bit later. We might not. I don't mind Ezekiel Elliott here. In terms of David Montgomery, Cam Akers, and Breece Hall, and even J.K. Dobbins, for me, personally, I would rather target Darrell Henderson, Khalil Herbert, and Michael Carter. They're just all so incredibly cheap. If you really want to share the Ravens backfield, which I personally don't, just because it's such a revolving door. I mean, at the time I'm filming this, there are rumors that Kenyon Drake is visiting with them. I would just go for a dart throw in your draft. And right now, it looks like J.K. Dobbins isn't even going to be ready for week 1. So, truthfully, I think the best available running back is Ezekiel Elliott, someone I've talked about all offseason long, who I really don't understand the hate on Zeke, and you can certainly argue with the argument I just made against those other guys that you could go get Tony Pollard a little bit later. But for me, I really think Zeke's going to have a great year. I mean, a consistent year. Is there a ton of upside? Not necessarily, but I don't mind Zeke whatsoever as an RB2, I don't mind ETN here. I think he's a nice upside play, but we'll go with Zeke for the purpose of today's mock. And then we're just rotating back to the receiver position, and we'll see who we can land at the end of the 4th. So the 2nd round is wrapped up. Looking at the 3rd here, we got Mike Evans, Nick Chubb, Keenan Allen, T. Higgins, Zeke, Michael Pittman, DJ Moore, and Cam Akers gone so far. AJ Brown off of the board. And we'll sit back as we got 3 more selections left in the 3rd. And then we'll move into the 4th round. So far we have 2 tight ends off the board and 0 quarterbacks. So at this point, I'm really not worried about quarterback or tight end quite yet. Now, if it makes you more comfortable following the strategy as Brandon Cooks is off the board here, you can go ahead and set up a tier, right? You can either start from the top and just keep an eye on who's being selected, or you can just start your personal tier of when you're getting word and when you want to select those specific quarterbacks. Through ESPN's rankings, I like targeting Joe Burrow a little bit later and maybe stacking him with a Trey Lance for some upside, but I think Burrow's going to have a perfectly fine year. So I like where he's ranked if you are drafting through ESPN, but once again, just be aware that he is going a little bit earlier than his projected rankings on ESPN. In terms of tight end, I'm perfectly comfortable getting someone in the Dalton Schultz, Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz tier. For me, if you don't spend that early draft pick on a Kelsey or Andrews, you might as well just wait and fade tight end to the end of the draft. If you can land Schultz or Goddard at the right price, I think that's perfectly fine. Kittle, just the way I've been drafting, he has not been landing to me. I do think Kittle's going to be perfectly fine this year. Waller kind of scares me in terms of injuries, and Hawkinson, the shoulder injury has just been bugging me all off season. So I really think if you don't land Schultz or Goddard at the right price, then you just hold off and you land a Cole Kmet, you land a Dawson Knox, you land a Hunter Henry at a later round price, and I really don't have a problem with that personally. All right, so we'll hold off at quarterback and tight end for the time being. AJ Brown's gone, Brandon Cooks is gone, J.K. Dobbins gone, Deontay Johnson is gone into the 4th round. You got Kyle Pitts, Cortland Sutton, Travis Etienne, Mike Williams, Jalen Waddle, and Montgomery off of the board. So let's take a look at available receivers. Scary Terry, Hollywood Brown, DK Metcalf, Jerry Jeudy, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Darnell Mooney, Gabe Davis, Chris Godwin. I mean, we got all kinds of talent sitting here as Jerry Jeudy's off the board. What I would like to get here is someone who's just going to bring some consistency to this roster. So for me, I'll go with Scary Terry. I mean, I think he's going to be perfectly fine this year. I'll take him in the 4th all day long. I mean, listen, I'm not a big fan of Carson Wentz either, but I think at the end of the day, really, when you look at McLaurin's quarterback history, Carson Wentz is probably an upgrade from everything he's had. And at the end of the day, with how many fantasy managers are bullish on Michael Pittman this season based off what he did last year, I mean, Carson Wentz was the quarterback throwing to Michael Pittman last year, and I get that Pittman probably is an upgrade with Matt Ryan at quarterback, but at the end of the day, like, Pittman had a great year. I think that Carson Wentz is going to be able to support McLaurin as a receiver. And I will note here, in terms of if you want to target someone from the same offense at a cheaper draft price, if you're a little bit scared of Scary Terry, maybe, no pun intended, go for Dotson. I mean, I've heard a lot of positive things about Jon Dawson and even Carson Wentz in terms of chemistry, and Dotson in general in terms of his training camp. I think Dotson's a really good rookie receiver. You can basically make the final selection of your draft. He's really going at a cheap price overall. All right, little run at quarterback here after Breece Hall has taken Josh Allen, Patty Mahomes, Justin Herbert off of the board. Into the 5th round, we got Hollywood Brown and Josh Jacobs off the board. So don't be afraid, right, if you're doing this, what I kind of call a bounce back strategy of going running back, receiver. If you're looking at the board overall and you feel like there's more value at receiver than there is running back, don't be afraid to deviate, as Josh Jacobs, Chris Godwin, and Hollywood Brown are off of the board. And I think for me, if I did go running back here, for me, it's Damian Pierce. He's another running back ranked at 92 through ESPN. His draft stock has been rising like crazy. I like Eli Mitchell here if I do go running back, but I think I'd rather go receiver. Let's go Amon-Ra St. Brown. I really like Darnell Mooney and Gabe Davis there. Kind of just going for another upside player, as we have Tyreek Hill, Scary Terry so far. Hill obviously bringing that upside, the boomer bust potential. Let's go with Amon-Ra St. Brown to bring some more upside. And then when we select our 4th receiver, we'll go for a little bit more consistency. Maybe a Hunter Renfrow or Devonta Smith at a later point in this draft. Okay. So Eli Mitchell's gone, Miles Sanders gone, Allen Robinson gone, as we continue to navigate through the 5th round. The 2 running backs on my mind at this point in the mock undoubtedly are A.J. Dillon and Damian Pierce. And with the unfortunate news of Brian Robinson getting shot, I mean, just awful news. So glad to see that he's back in the facility. Glad to see that, you know, he's doing well in his recovery. But in terms of a pure fantasy speculation, I think Gibson might be in a place, you know, for a little bit of a rebound, especially with the news of Patterson being released from Washington's backfield as well. So I just think, all things considered, Gibson is worth a shot as an RB3 and RB4 especially. I still like Gibson as an RB4 the most, even in 12-team formats. But I don't know. I just think, all things considered, there comes a point where I just don't know how much of a drop-off from a top 15 running back we can get out of Gibson, you know, in terms of those of you who are really, really low on Gibson, right? Another guy I like in this tier is Chase Edmonds. I think in the full PPR, at least, I've been a fan of Chase Edmonds as a late-round running back, because I do think that the way that offense is going to be ran, a receiving running back is going to benefit quite a bit. So looking at who's available, as Gibson is off the board, as well as Allen Robinson, Hunter Renfrow, Lamar Jackson, Darnell Mooney, and Gabe Davis. So Gibson is off the board, but I mean, in terms of guys like Damian Pierce, Chase Edmonds, A.J. Dillon, I think they're all just really good RB3s. And if you land them as an RB4, I mean, that's even better, right? So, all right, let's just take a step back. Let's see who is getting selected here. 5th round wraps up with Darnell Mooney. Into the 6th round, we got Gabe Davis, Antonio Gibson, Darren Waller, and A.J. Dillon is gone. A.J. Dillon, a player I've been extremely high on throughout the whole off season, and he's really just another guy who throughout the off season his ADP has moved up and up. He's a really hard player to really get a good understanding of where he's going in mocks. Like in our subscriber mocks, he's gone by the end of the 4th. In a lot of these regular mocks, he might last until the 8th round. He might be floating around the 6th round. It's just hard to say overall. So let's take our 3rd running back off of the board. Let's go with Damian Pierce. He's ranked as 92 overall through ESPN, like I said. But in our subscriber mock, or excuse me, in our actual subscriber draft for the Catch Fam tournament, I mean, he went in the 6th round. I'm not going to be surprised with the news of Marlon Mack being released if we continue to see Damian Pierce climb up another round. And then if you are drafting, like the first week of NFL action, like the first week of September, don't be surprised if Damian Pierce goes in the 4th. I mean, I think that there might be enough talent on the board that he'll continue to fall out until at least the 5th, but just don't be surprised. There's going to be fantasy managers out there. Maybe he goes 0 running back. I don't know. Just all I'm saying is with Pierce in line to be a true RB1, where, I mean, really when you look at guys like Kenneth Walker, you got Rashad Penny there still. When you look at, probably the best running back talent in the whole draft, undoubtedly probably in Breece Hall. You still got Michael Carter hanging around, like Pierce is just in line to be a straight up RB1, which is why I've loved him since the Texans selected him. So regardless, just, it's hard. I just talked about A.J. Dillon being hard to kind of figure out where he's going to go in actual drafts. Pierce kind of has a question mark in that same area. All right, so CH is gone, Michael Thomas gone, Amari Cooper gone, Devin Singletary gone, Dalton Schultz is gone as we start the 7th. So for me, this is the point in the draft where I do want to start paying attention to tight end. If we can land a Dallas Goedert, I'll be really happy. If we don't, I'll go with Dawson Knox, Hunter Henry, and or Cole Kmet. I don't have a problem getting 2 tight ends, especially if you're in a league where you can flex one of those tight ends, right? Worst case scenario, you can throw one in the flex for a week or 2. So Burrow still hanging around here. I mean, I've done so many mocks this offseason where Burrow is going far ahead of Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Prescott. So just don't be surprised if he gets selected before any of those guys. But for me, at this point in the mock, I'm going to go with another receiver. And through the 8th and 9th, try and get a tight end and quarterback. If they fall out, then we'll just continue our strat. So I like Devonta Smith and Elijah Moore here the most. I'll go with Devonta Smith. I mean, I've just been a huge fan of Smith all offseason. I really do think he's going to be a really nice security blanket for Jalen Hurts within that offense where A.J. Brown is kind of stretching the field. Goddard will be, Goddard gets selected here, so we're not landing Goddard in this draft. Zach Ertz gone as well. But yeah, I just like Devonta Smith. I think his role within the Eagles offense is going to be great. I love him. Really love him as a wide receiver 4. When we look at the receivers on this team, we got Tyreek Hill and St. Brown to bring, like I said, some really nice boomer bust potential on a weekly basis, some really nice upside overall. And then I think we've got 2 really good receivers in terms of consistency in Scary Terry and Devonta Smith. All right, so the 7th round wraps up there. 2 tight ends off the board, Goddard and Zach Ertz, Kareem Hunt, Tony Pollard, Elijah Moore, and Drake London. Into the 8th round we go. We got Kadarius Toney off the board. I'm feeling pretty confident with the start to this roster overall. We're going to be able to identify some good late round running back value and late round receiver value. Hopefully some good late round tight end value on top of that. So for me, my top target right here at pick 92 is Joe Burrow, without a doubt. If we don't land Burrow, I still think we go quarterback here. Just get it out of the way. I mean, Prescott, Brady, Rodgers, Wilson, Burrow, and Stafford all sitting here at the moment. And really, I mean, Trey Lance is ranked a little bit lower than these guys on the ESPN platform, but don't be surprised to see Lance selected ahead of any of these quarterbacks or right in the same tier as any of these quarterbacks. I mean, Trey Lance just a fantasy player that fantasy managers want on their respective rosters. So Adam Thielen gone, Ramondre Stevenson gone. So after we go quarterback, I truthfully think we can still hold off at tight end another round at the rate we're going in terms of the tight ends we're going for. So I think you just go with the best available running back or receiver. We've got 4 receivers, 3 running backs on this team. So in terms of later round running backs like Rashad Penny, James Robinson, James Cook, Michael Carter, Kenneth Walker, Melvin Gordon, I mean, there's a reason to draft any of those guys as well as Alexander Madison. In terms of receivers, I still think we have some solid value here as well. So, and there you go, man. Trey Lance selected ahead of all those quarterbacks we just went over. So, personally, I like Joe Burrow out of the available quarterbacks the most, but there's certainly an argument for Brady, Rodgers, Wilson, Stafford, Carr, and even Cousins. Carr and Cousins probably at the bottom there, but I'll go Burrow all day long as our QB1. I love that selection. So I think really moving into this next pick, we go with the best. There's 2 ways to do this, right? We go with the best available running back or receiver, or we just take our tight end off the board and get it out of the way. I don't mind either selection there. And I really think if we hold off at tight end, we can still land a Dawson Knox. And I mean, you guys know I kind of have like a love affair with Dawson Knox. If you're new to the channel, then you might not know that, but I really don't have a problem with Dawson Knox as my tight end one moving in to the season. Cole Kmet here is not necessarily a bad selection though at the tight end position. So I think Ayuk brings some nice upside. I think there's some pretty good receivers hanging around at this point in the draft. Let's take a quick look at running back. There's some names I like here as well. Let's go with Brandon Ayuk, though. Let's take him off the board. Get some nice upside at the receiver position. And really, at this point in the draft, as I've been talking about going running back, receiver, this is really the main point in the draft for me when I'm following this strategy, where you start to deviate a little bit, and you're just really looking at who is the best available receiver or running back and taking them off of the board. But we do want to identify some more running back depth throughout this draft, as we only have 3 running backs, 2 of them veteran-esque players in Derrick Henry and Ezekiel Elliott as well. Damian Pierce brings some nice youth to this team on top of that. So looking at pick 116, we're going to see what's going on at tight end. If we don't go tight end here, then we're probably going running back. James Cook, Kenneth Walker, Michael Carter. I mean, there's certainly an argument for any of these guys. I don't want to get too many rookie running backs ideally, but James Cook is a guy who I think does bring some nice upside. And then there's a point in the draft where Kenneth Walker might be the best selection. I don't really mind J.D. McKissic, but I'd rather land in Alexander Madison or Darrell Henderson. I like Khalil Herbert and Tyler Algier on top of that quite a bit. So looking at available receivers at this point in the draft, I would take a chance on Sky Moore. I love Tyler Boyd. I like Jon Dawson a lot. I really do. I mean, it almost makes me wish I went with a different receiver over Scary Terry. I think there's certainly an argument for Chris Olave, Jacoby Myers, even Russell Gage. I mean, there's plenty of value right at the receiver position. There's always going to be. George Pickens, Rondale Moore still sitting around. Even Kenny Golladay, who I think will probably end up being the Giants' #1 receiver. But outside of late round receivers, let's revert back to tight end as Dawson Knox is off of the board. So we're not landing Knox. James Cook is gone. So we're not landing James Cook. So for me, I think at 116, I'd probably like to land Kmet here and just get it over with. If he gets selected, then it's probably Hunter Henry or Mike Gesicki, which in that case, I do think we could wait one more round. And I like Pat Freiermuth sitting here as well. It's not, no disrespect to my boy Patty F. But let's take a look here at round 10. Let's just see what happens. Getting some rookie running backs and receivers gone. Pat F is gone. Let's just take Cole Kmet off of the board and cross our fingers that he really does become everything that the fantasy community thinks he could be. I mean, he's the #1 rated player. So let's take him. Then I really would like to land Tyler Boyd, but I don't know if we're going to land him. He's right at the top of the charts here, but I do think there's some really good receiver value. Players ranked a little bit low that I think we can land. So I'm almost positive, since there's a couple teams with auto picks, that Tyler Boyd's not going to be available. But if he is, I think he's the best player available. When we take him, he's gone. So I think looking at things here, I probably like Darrell Henderson most in terms of who's available. Some really good receivers sitting around as well. So I like Madison, especially with rumors that he might be getting traded. Let's go with Madison here, and let's see if we can land Darrell Henderson in a late round. I love Alexander Madison as a bench player. Regardless of if he gets traded or not, I absolutely love him. I mean, if he gets traded to the right team, he's going to be, at this point in the offseason, if you're drafting right now, he could really end up being an absolute steal overall. So let's take a look at the squad, right? We got Joe Burrow at quarterback, Kmet at tight end, Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, Damian Pierce, Alexander Madison at running back. So kind of faded running back after those first 2 rounds, so to speak, where our upside is coming from the receiver position as a whole. Tyler Algier and Darrell Henderson are off the board there. So receivers, we got Tyreek Hill, Scary Terry, Emmanuel St. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Brandon Ayuk. 3 more bench spots. So like I said, we were really just going for the best available running back and receiver. But 2 of those running backs that I really like, Darrell Henderson and Tyler Algier, are gone. So really, when we're looking at running backs, I would really like to land Khalil Herbert. I think he's the most valuable handcuff running back, but I think at this point in the draft, receiver holds far more value. So let's take George Pickens off the board here. I think that's a really nice selection in terms of value. And then really, when I'm looking at available players, Rondale Moore probably holds the most value for me. I like Jalen Tolbert as well. And I mean, Kenny Golladay, there's an argument. DJ Chark, I guess there's an argument too. We already have Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I think Rondale Moore is probably the player that I like the most, but it might make more sense for us to just go ahead and snatch up the best available running back, as we're sitting at a pretty thin chart. I mean, could go with Isaiah P. You know, I mean, he's made a lot of waves in terms of the offseason as well, but I'm going to go Khalil Herbert here. I think he's a great handcuff. So we kind of end up with two handcuff situations, which could really pay off or could end up being really frustrating as well. So really, my last target here is going to be Rondale Moore. We'll see if he's available. I don't think he's going to be. I don't know. It's going to be close here. We're seeing a lot of kickers and defenses go as in. There goes Rondale Moore. I mean, he just really stood out in terms of value sitting there. So Jalen Tolbert, McCole Hardman, I mean, even Michael Gallup, Nico Collins, Van Jefferson, Julio. There's an argument for all these receivers, Isaiah McKenzie, Jameson Crowder. You know, it's really your pick here. Which offense do you like the most? Who do you think could end up being the most productive as a whole? I mean, there's an argument for all these guys. Let's go with a veteran. Let's go Julio Jones. I mean, I think any of those receivers would have been perfectly fine to select. We could have gone with another tight end. Won't show me who's available, but okay. At this point, we're just going to pick the best available kicker and defense and put this mock draft in the books. All right, so pick 173 here in the 15th round. We'll just take a look. Where do you get the better value, kicker or defense? I mean, it's hard to say. You can always stream a defense. You can always find a good value kicker. And the two drafts that I've already done for this season, I haven't even drafted a kicker because I've looked at who's available during that final selection and just seen like 8 or 9 kickers that I wouldn't mind starting going into the season. I'm just selecting an extra skill position player and then making a hard choice on who I'm going to drop before the season starts, right? But you could always argue going for a kicker first is fine because then you can always stream a defense, right? So looking at defenses available here, I actually like the Broncos quite a bit. They've got a pretty good schedule to start the season. So we'll go with the Broncos defense. And then really like looking at kickers here, right? Jake Elliott had a great year last year. I like Greg Joseph. He just got selected. I like Dustin Hopkins, Ryan Suckup, Robbie Gould, Mason Crosby. Chris Boswell. I get that the Steelers theoretically take a step back without Ben Roethlisberger, but Boswell had an amazing season last year from a fantasy perspective. And I get that not everyone really, he's kicker number 4 last year. I get that everyone doesn't really care about kicker and defense evaluations, but we do here at The Catch. You guys know that Steven brings you guys some fire kicker and defensive video on the weekly basis. So nonetheless, that fills out the roster. There is a final look at the squad. We got Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill, Zeke, Scary Terry, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Damian Pierce, Devonta Smith, Joe Burrow, Brandon Ayuk, Cole Kmet, Alexander Madison, George Pickens, Khalil Herbert, Julio, Broncos defense, and Chris Boswell. So a little thin at running back, so to speak, but I certainly think, having 2 verified veteran starters in Zeke and Henry, then Pierce as your RB3, then 2 handcuffs is fine in a 12-team league, although you like to probably see something a little bit different. But at the end of the day, I think that, especially if your league drafts RB heavy and competitively, that's a pretty realistic look at what you may end up with. Okay, Tyreek Hill, Scary Terry, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devonta Smith. I love those first 4 receivers. Then we get Ayuk and Pickens and some later rounds with Julio. And really at the end, there's a plethora of receivers we could have chosen over Julio, but we go with Julio for today's mock draft. At the end of the day, I think the receiving room is the best part of this team. Plus, we got Joey B at quarterback and maybe a steal at tight end and Cole Kmet, the Broncos defense, and Chris Boswell. I think overall, another great mock draft in the books. If you guys did enjoy today's content, be sure to hit that like button on the way out. Hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. Thank you guys for sticking it through in this awful setup I have for the week while I am on vacation. Of course, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought of today's mock, and if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns pertaining to 2022 fantasy football season. With that, I'll say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening, and remember, you guys saw it here on The Catch.